What is up, guys? Level Up Sports Betting here with the first educational video for you guys. Jason Radowitz, Kevin Davis here. We're going to bring you guys the first episode on bankroll management, how to build your bankroll 101. We're going to go over all the basics to help you guys become better bettors and make some money without losing it all after you make it. So First, if you're watching this in April or beyond, I do have our Patreon in the description below on YouTube. So join our Patreon for our best bets daily. Uh, it'll be in the MLB, NHL, NBA, all sports, even the CPBL and the KBO. Kevin and I are pros at the Asian Baseball League. So we have it all there for you guys. So make sure to check out the Patreon when we start back in April. For now, we are free in the Discord. So definitely check out on Twitter. We post that Discord link every single day, especially on my Twitter at Jason_Radowitz. That's RADOWITZ. So we're going to start off with bankroll management from Kevin Davis. The first question for you, Kevin, that a lot of people ask me personally is, what is bankroll management? Can you explain it a little bit more and what it's all about?
Bankroll management is all about how not to go broke betting on sports, because you can be smart, lose money betting on sports. You could be an idiot and make money on sports. So the idea is to limit your losses and have steady gains. So essentially, there's many different ways to do it. There's no scientific method, but a general rule of thumb is you don't want to bet more than 5% of your bankroll on a bet, because you don't want to be like, if this one team wins or loses, it can make or break my bankroll. And you don't want to say, I'm only going to bet on payday, and I'm going to bet this percentage of my paycheck. If I lose it, I'm going to be done betting. You want to take a chunk of money and set it to the side. Now, there's many different ways you can determine your unit size, but essentially, you want to determine how much you bet based on the unit size. So you could have each unit be 1%. That's my favorite method. You can have each unit be, let's say you have a small bankroll and you want to make it worthwhile. You can have each unit be 2% of your bankroll, or each unit be like 1.5% or even less. But let's say you had like a bankroll $250 or $500, and you think it would be boring to bet $10 a game. So you want to bet $20 a game. So if you bet $20 a game and you have a $500 bankroll, that's about a I think I'm brain freeze right now. 2.5%, per unit if you're betting $20 a game. So maybe you want to do a little bit less, but let's say you're doing that. Then you do your bets, and then you look at your bankroll, like how much money you have, and then you adjust it based on your percentage size, or you stay with the same unit. But the essential idea is not to go broke. So let's say you have $1,000 and you do 1% of bet. Then you're betting $10 a game. And then a good way to determine, most people are going to lose money betting on sports. So if you're looking at your expected value for each bet, especially if you're betting on a spread, if you're betting $10 on a spread, you should expect to lose 45 cents for each bet you make. So it's a relatively cheap form of entertainment. Now, if you want to make money, you have to beat that vigorish, and you have to have some analytical skill, which is part of the fun of it. But put the bankroll management in so you don't lose all your money.
So how much should you wager on each game, depending on your bankroll? Let's say, we'll start with, if you have $1,000 to put in your bankroll for sports betting, how much do you think you should wager on each game?
Well, it depends on how many games you want to wager. So, for example, when I bet, I typically bet on 20 to 40 different bets, but a lot of times it's multiple player props on the same game. So let's say I'll pick a game where I'll go a unit on the game, and then I'll pick 3 player props in the game, and I'll go half a unit on it. But then I'll double check to make sure I'm not too exposed to one side. So let's say it's like Clippers versus Nets. I'm not going to do like, a unit on the Clippers and then half a unit on 3 different Clippers to go over. I'm going to double check to make sure my books are balanced a bit, so I'm not too exposed if the Nets have a really good game.
So how do you choose which game that you want to bet, and why do you pick the player props in the game you're already on?
So player props make it extra fun because you're not just waiting for the game. You'd be like, okay, this player, he's not going to do well hitting 3-pointers against this team. I'm going to bet on him to go under his 3-pointer total. Or this player has been getting more minutes. I'm going to bet on him to go over the rebound number, etc. So it's like a different set of analysis, but it is directly correlated to the game level bets.
So a lot of people will ask, like, can I bet on player props to build my bankroll? Would you, if you're a beginner or you're a starter, would you just stick with the spread, the total, the money line, or would you be okay and say, yeah, we could build our bankroll via player props, or is that more an advanced strategy? Would you stick with just the spread, the total, and the money line before player props if you're a beginner?
Well, that's a totally separate question than how you manage your bankroll. But if you're a new bettor, your best bet is to find one area of one game to know really well and focus only on that. So basically, the spreads and the totals are the most efficient because normally people can get the most money down as the most popular. So the line will be hammered down, will be efficient. But if you have like 200 different bets on a game, you could find some inefficiencies in those numbers. But you have to be careful to make sure you're not going on the extremely inefficient side. So, for example, usually for popular players, taking the over is not a good bet. A lot of people are going to bet the over or the over in general because people want to see excitement.
I'm someone that definitely does that. So we'll move on here. Talk about what your unit size should be. If you have a $1,000 bankroll, how much money should you be putting on each bet? And let's say off of, let's say you're betting 3 games a day. We'll go with that because I think that's more of like the norm from 1 to 3 to 5 is the best way to I guess, be consistent and also say you have some discipline as well. So, what should your unit size be off of 3 bets a day with $1,000 in your bankroll?
Yeah, so you can afford to do $20 per bet on that. I would say because it's still 2% for each bet. Let's say you bet 33 days of $60 a day, and you go on a losing streak. You only hit 37% of your bets. Well, you're not completely screwed because you ended up losing only $293, which I shouldn't say like only, but that could be like the worst possible thing. If you're like trying something that you have a theoretical 50% chance of hitting and you're only hitting it 37% of the time. Now, let's say you hit 50% of those bets and you did that for 33 straight days, which is a pretty long period of time. You're looking at a pretty small loss, I would say, about $45,
Not too
which
bad.
is pretty good over such a big sample size.
Yeah. So when you're starting to win bets, right now, let's say you increase that 1,000 bankroll. Now you're up to 2,500, 3,000. Do you increase your unit size or do you stay steady until you reach a bigger milestone? When do you change your unit size and your when you increase your bankroll?
Yes, so normally I look to see. I have a specific unit size personally for each different sport. So I factor in what my bankroll grew to, and then so I increase the unit size, but I make it so the unit size itself is a smaller percentage of my bankroll. So if let's say you could use that example, I had $1,000 bankroll, it grew to 2,500, and I was betting $10 a game. I wouldn't necessarily bump it up to $25. I'd bet it up to 20. Or if let's say I was doing $20 a game with the $1,000 bankroll, it's now at 2,500. I'd bump it up to 30. So instead of 2% of my bankroll in each bet, it's about a little bit more than like 1.2% of my bankroll in each bet. So I'm decreasing the risk, but I'm increasing the unit because the whole idea of bankroll management is to make sure to decrease your risk.
And how do you decide which sport gets more of a bankroll, or is that just something that you've done over time? How do you know how much money each sport should be betting on in terms of units?
Well, one mistake I made is the last time there was a CFL season 2 years ago, I got really good at CFL, and my units were small because I was just like, "Oh, this is entertaining," and I never increased my unit size. So I corrected that mistake because last year during the pandemic, I experimented with the Chinese Professional Baseball League in Taiwan, betting on Taiwanese baseball, and I was doing really well. So that I ended up, increasing my unit size about 50 to 60%, which to me is pretty big. They were still, if you look at my bankroll, it was still about 3/4% per unit of my bankroll on those games when I was confident.
So
I'm betting 20, 30 games a day on my busy days.
Yeah. But then that's scattered all out around all different sports. So let's look at strategies that you could be using. You hear it a lot from a lot of different cappers, and there's no right or wrong way. There's flat betting, there's percentage betting, there's confidence betting. Flat betting, just putting, a certain amount of units or one unit on every single wager. Percentage betting, saying, "Oh, this is going to be 2% of my bankroll that I'm going to be putting on this game," or your confidence betting, where, okay, I'm thinking, this game I like more than the other game, so I'm going to put maybe 5 units on this one when I normally just put 1 unit on other bets. So, which strategy would you say that you use with those three, and what do you think is the best strategy for a beginner or someone that's maybe been around sports betting for quite some time?
Well, the best strategy for a beginner is flat betting. The reason why is if you're using covenant betting and you're totally wrong from an analytical angle, you're going to get wiped out much quicker. Like, what if you're really confident but you're wrong?
This happens.
I mean, that happens. There's always chance.
Yeah.
What if you're really into this basketball team, but the player breaks his tibia in the middle of the game? There's a good degree of chance.
Yeah.
If anyone uses the term lock, they're full of shit.
Yeah.
The general rule I use.
There's no locks ever in sports, and that could be a whole nother video talking about how there's no locks whatsoever, even when the analytics prove it. And that's one reason why I'm more of a flat better myself. I like to just do one unit on every single play. I don't like taking chances. I don't like adding a crazy amount of percentage on my bets. Or and the funny thing is, a lot of people will be like, when I get out 3 plays a day in college basketball, they'll be like, "What are you more confident in?" If I give out a play, I'm 100% confident in it, or I wouldn't be giving it to you. So when it comes down to confidence betting, I think that's a crock of what. Also, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to give you a bet that I'm not confident in, and every single bet I give you, I'm confident 100%, and I believe in each one the same amount. So for me, that's not something that I would ever do in terms of confidence betting. Is that something that you would say that you're like too? When you give out a bet, you're confident just as much as the other bet that you give out?
Yeah, I mean, for my own personal bankroll management, I have my own strategies.
Yep.
But you should just assume everything's a 1 unit play. Player props, if I'm playing 3 player props on a game, I'm not betting 1 unit on each of those player props.
Yeah.
Usually I have my own separate player prop model. So if there's a side I like let's say the Clippers, I'll go in my model, see bets that go against the Clippers and throw them in. Because let's say the Clippers do well and those players go under, all those bets hit. Let's say the Clippers go terribly and those players do terribly, I recoup most of the money or even make money.
Yeah, so go a little bit more in depth on what strategy you use, because I think a lot of people are interested, because I think throughout the time that they've been following you, our supporters and even new followers that you'll be getting as well, you're a guy that loves to take underdogs. You're a guy that likes to find value when you see it, and you're not afraid to click it if it says plus 1,500. So talk about your strategy and why you're able to profit on bets like that, where you might get a plus $1,500 or 1,500 odds and say, yeah, I might have a chance to win it, or I might just flush the money down the toilet, but I'll be okay.
Yeah, so when you have a bankroll, the idea is, and you manage it, the idea is you don't get killed if you lose the game. So be like, okay, I'm going to take some risks. I don't care if I lose. I see good value on this. I'm going to take this plus 1,500 team because they really have like a 12% chance of winning. And plus 1,500 implies that they have, you can put in like an odds converter calculator, but off the top of my head, I believe that would be like 6 or 7%. So if your perceived chance of something happening is greater than what the odds suggest, you should take the bet always.
Cool.
You're not trying to get the instant gratification. You just take your money, put it in a separate place. Like, for example, my grandfather, because I'm a fourth generation sports bettor,
Wow.
he early on in his marriage blew the monthly rent in a poker game. So my grandma made him have a separate wallet to put his gambling money in. So I don't have a separate physical wallet to put my gambling money in. But if I make a withdrawal from a sports betting site, I'll put into like a separate bank account. And that's how I keep track of that. So that's the other thing, which is like extensive record keeping, which luckily there's a free app that recently came out that's really good for record keeping. It saves you a lot of work from doing Excel spreadsheets.
Cool. So when it's all said and done, when you make your plays on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, monthly basis, annual basis, how do you track your results, and how are you able to monitor your progress? And has there been a time where you've had to say you've had to take a step back and say, all right, I got to put my unit size down a little bit, I'm struggling a little bit, or do you just keep pushing?
Yeah, so before I used the BetStamp app, which I completely recommended, I just would have my own Excel spreadsheet, like a Google Doc, where I would like put in what the game is, and then I would put in what date it was and what type of bet I had. Then I would type the odds in, how much money I bet. This just converts the odds into like what the payoff is. And then I would just type in win, lose, or push, and it would calculate if I won money or if I didn't, the net, and then it would add everything up. So like that's the beginning of college football. I did well this year in college football. I didn't end up with a 29.2% ROI, but this is what I had up until I switched to the BetStamp app. But essentially, and then you can keep a separate spreadsheet of like each account, how much you have in it. But of course, you want to keep track separately how much you made in bonuses, because they give you a lot of bonuses which are good, but you want to make sure that you're somewhat profitable or at least close to break even on your sports bets. Mm-hmm. So, that took some work to build, but luckily you just go in the App Store, look for BetStamp, and you can manually put in, not manually, you just click a button, say how much money you bet on it, and it'll automatically track if you won or lost rather than have to manually put it in.
So there's BetStamp. I see other guys in the chat talking about Action Network. It looks like Shaheem uses the Action Network. Akbar is asking what app that you use for tracking your bets. You could also go online on Google, search for different Excel spreadsheets that will kind of do it already for you. So there's a lot out there kind of already set up for you to track your progress. And so, again, when you do track your progress, has there been a time where you've said, hey, look, I have to bring the units down a bit, or do you just keep pushing? Is it like the stock market where it's a dip, but you just buy the dip and you just keep on going? Or is it like, all right, I got to take a step back. I'm struggling right now. I'm going to put the units down.
Yeah, you could definitely do that. I've just been so conservative with my bankroll that I've never really decreased anything. Yep. I've just always increased. But, typically I stick with the same unit size for a whole season. Maybe a couple months in, I'll change it if it's like a new sport and I'm trying it out. Like I should have done with Canadian football, but I did do for Taiwanese baseball.
Right. So just one more thing on why bankroll management is important. Obviously, we alluded to it earlier, because if you don't have bankroll management, you're going to lose all your money. That's the biggest thing. And, I think a lot of people, they'll just have different plays on different games and different sports, and they'll be all over the place. I think it's really important to find your niche, find what you're really good at, and stick to that. And for me personally, I'm a guy, I like to find an odd amount of games so I could profit a unit per day. That's always the goal, profit 1 unit per day. So I'm a guy that will likely do 1 to 3 plays per day per sport. And with that, I do believe that I will be able to profit for a long period of time. I think the last thing that people have been asking a ton when they're on a bankroll, when they have 3 games, should they be live betting? Is that something that they should be doing to build their bankroll? Or is it something they should be staying away from? Is it a sucker thing to live bet? What's your take?
Well, if you have a live bet model, definitely, which is actually the first model I built. I didn't even realize it was a model. I just took all the past 5 years of NBA games and said, if a team is up by 5 points at the end of the second quarter and they're 4-point favorites, how often do they win?
Yeah.
It's just simple like that, and say, okay, that translates to minus 140, and they're offering it at minus 120. That's a good bet. So my best advice for live betting is all these different apps. Yeah, they have their own odds teams, but they all copy each other. They're not original. Well, if it's like during the game, they don't have much time to copy each other. So if you get every single app out there and shop for the best price, you can have a situation where it's a negative hold, meaning you can randomly pick a side and get the best odds, and over the long run, you would get a profit. So you can certainly bet both sides for like arbitrage, do a scalp, or even do a middle, where you bet one team plus 8.5 and the other team minus 6.5. And if the minus 6.5 team wins by 7 or 8 points, both bets hit. Or you can just pick the best value bet. But essentially, for live betting, the best advice I can say, besides have a model, which is actually more important than having a model, which is to have all the apps and shop. So I'll just go on my phone and I'll scroll through each app quickly during each commercial break, and then just jump on it. Like, I won't even look at the game. I'll just look for the commercial breaks. Go on the apps one by one. If there's like a 1 or 2 point differential, I'll say, okay, let me look at this game and pick a side.
Yeah.
Because I know that extra point out there is worth about, it depends on the game, but usually worth about 15 to 18 cents.
Yeah. And if you have a live betting model like Kevin does, then live betting is definitely something you should be looking into, because I went to a bar one time with Kevin and a couple people, and he gave me this one bet, told me the Nets, I think it was under a certain total or whatever, and he hit it by like 30 points. The Nets literally just struggled in the second half and destroyed that bet. And that was the moment that I knew that Kevin knew the heck what he was talking about. And that's when Kevin and I really became close and started talking about sports every single day. That blew my mind. His live bet hit by 30 points. And
I certainly like to take all the credit, but
well, it makes it
there's
sound
variance,
good.
which is why you want the bankroll management. Like, what if they went out and they played at a slow tempo, but they hit every shot and they went over? Does that mean it's a bad bet?
No.
So when you analyze if a bet is a good or a bad bet, you don't want to analyze it if you won or not. You want to analyze it in terms of what was your logic behind taking the bet, and did you get it at the best price?
Yeah. So that's the first episode of the educational series that we're going to be doing 3 to 4 times per week with Kevin here. If you guys have any ideas or any suggestions on what you want to hear from Kevin, please let us know in the comment section below. Go to our Discord. You can follow us on Twitter and let us know there. If there's anything you have a question on, we will provide answers for, or at least try, with our very own Kevin Davis here. On Tuesday, which is tomorrow, we have the Level Up Sports Betting Game Show featuring Josh from Winterwire in basketball. He'll be going up against one of our subscribers and loyal supporters in Jack. Only one person has beat us so far in the Level Up Sports Betting Show. It's been 3 times so far. So Level Up Sports Better or Coppers are 2-1 against our supporters. So Jack's going to try to make it even 2-2. He'll get $25 per for the entire day in basketball for the 7 o'clock or in 7:30 games. He'll get 5 bets with 5 units, or 5 bets with 5 units on $25, and he'll be going up against Josh and see if he can beat him and get more profit than Josh tomorrow night. Again, that's at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll be going live to watch the remainder of the games that start at 7:30, and we'll see if Jack's able to win. Also, premiering tomorrow, we're going to start a new show called Empty Netters, hosted by Matty Ice, Matt DeLeo. We're going to be doing a hockey show. A lot of people have said we don't see enough hockey content out there. So we're going to give you guys a full show in the morning on hockey in the NHL, best bets analysis on all games in the NHL, featuring Matty Ice. He'll be hosting it, so you won't be hearing my voice, but you'll be hearing his, and he'll have some guests on there as well to help out with the NHL and the slate in the NHL. So look forward to that tomorrow, starting at 10 o'clock, and that will be every single day starting tomorrow from Monday through Friday at 10 o'clock, unless noted otherwise. But with that said, that is the first show for the educational series that we'll be doing with Kevin Davis. Again, if you have any suggestions, please let us know. We will be back with another educational show on Wednesday. Time to be determined, but we'll let you guys know and alert you guys on Twitter and Discord when we do go live on Wednesday for the next educational video. Again, thank you guys for joining. Appreciate you guys, and we will see you guys tomorrow. We got two shows tomorrow: the bet show and the Empty Netter show. So two shows there at 10 a.m. for the hockey show and at 8:15 for the betting show with Josh against Jack. So we'll see you guys there, and have a great rest of your night. Bye.